Before Glacier National Park became a protected area, it was inhabited by numerous Native American tribes, such as the Blackfeet, Salish, Pindareel, and Kootenai tribes. As early as the 1700s, explorations by white hunters were successful in opening the area to trading between the European settlers and Native American tribes. Over time, the land's resources depleted. This motivated the tribes to sign treaties that would move Native Americans to reservations and leave them dependent on the United States government. Today, there are still 2.8 million acres designated to these tribes in Montana, inhabited by 8,600 members of the Blackfeet Nation and about 7,000 members of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes of the Flathead Nation. In the 1890s, the glacier landscape attracted the Great Northern Railway. The railroad was built to be a route to the West Coast. It was in the early 1890s that the construction for the railway started. Along the railway were stops that brought tourists in and attracted attention to the landscape. The location caught the attention of one George Bird Grinnell and his wife. They would later be the people to push the landscape to be a protected area. After 15 years of efforts from a number of people, President Taft signed the requisite legislation for Glacier National Park that would establish the park as the country's 10th national park on May 11, 1910. The railway opened up transportation for tourists among the park. Soon accommodations popped up, making the landscape an intriguing tourist destination. George Bird Grinnell was the main force behind the establishment of Glacier National Park. He first went to the park in 1885 and soon returned in 1887. He was responsible for persuading the public that the land should be a national park. He also holds credit for exploring the park during his visits, finding landmarks and paths, claiming his work by naming them. Through Grinnell and other efforts, the land became Glacier National Park. Since a famous landmark, Glacier, has been named after him, Grinnell Glacier. When Glacier was chosen to be a national park, the surrounding areas already supported the notion. The previous occupants, the Native American tribes, had already been relocated. The only disturbance in the process was between the National Park Service and the state of Montana when it came to negotiating borders. The Great Northern Railway was built to provide access to the West Coast. People soon fell in love with the land that the railway passed through and all the stops along the way. The land was wide and vast with many landmarks that took any passerby's breath away. A few people that fell in love with the land fought for it to be protected until it was declared the 10th national park in America.
Glacier National Park, although seemingly pristine, also faces many direct and indirect threats. The glaciers that the park is named after have been showing the effects of climate change for quite some time, and is now becoming essential that action will be taken in order to preserve the park as a whole. Construction, mining, recreational activities from humans, as well as deposits from human-caused air pollutants, are all threatening the water quality of the park. This creates issues not only for the water deposits humans pull from, but especially for the plants and animals within the ecosystem. In terms of pollution, light pollution has also begun to threaten the park and its inhabitants. This is majorly due to urbanization and has a strong effect on the patterns of animals within Glacier. It is also important to note that not all of these animals and species are native to the area. This is yet another threat. At least 137 non-native species of plants alone have been introduced to the park or invaded the area. These introductions threaten the native species within the ecosystem due to the fact that they create greater competition for resources and can also act as predators within the park. The largest threat that Glacier National Park is facing, and also the most apparent, is climate change. Humans have been an evident source of climate change over the last century due to rises in greenhouse gas emissions, including CO2, from advances in technology and the burning of fossil fuels. Alongside this, cutting down forests and natural lands for urbanization have also played a large role. These, among many other factors, affect Earth's natural albedo and have created a continuous cycle of global warming. The warming of the Earth threatens Glacier specifically in many ways. Mainly, this has caused fewer glaciers within the park and even the disappearance of some. According to National Geographic, when President Taft created Glacier National Park in 1910, it was home to an estimated 150 glaciers. Since then, that number has decreased to fewer than 30. Without glacial melt, summer temperatures will continue to rise and affect plant and animal species because there will be less water to help mediate these temperatures. Warmer temperatures will shift where the plants are able to grow and also affect the migration patterns of animals. These factors have the potential to have a negative effect on the biodiversity of the area. both in and outside of the park. Other direct threats include
Glacier National Park is an IUCN Category 2. It is in this category mainly because virtually all national parks are considered a Category 2. However, there are a few more reasons why Glacier is in this category. For starters, there are scientific and educational resources within this protected area so that people can learn more about it and its history, and also so that research can be done on its environmental standing. This protected area covers a massive amount of land, around 1 million acres, and it is also widely viewed as a recreational destination. The first effective management principle that's used by Glacier National Park is community education. Glacier provides a specific initiative called Parks as Classrooms, which offers a large range of learning tools for young people. I think that they provide so much for students like us because they know that young people are the ones that hold the power of the future and are one day going to control what happens to protected areas. The second management principle that I wanted to discuss are the regulations and policing that are utilized in Glacier National Park. Since it is such a large protected area, regulations and surveillance are needed to reduce the amount of human-caused disturbances. One particularly fascinating regulation I found that Glacier National Park has recently put into place is the ban of hovercraft. This includes remote pilot vehicles and even drones. The last management principle that is utilized by Glacier is planning for future threats. Human-caused climate change has affected this national park in too many ways to count. However, the management staff knows that as carbon emissions rise, glaciers will continue to shrink. They are working to make their park as sustainable as possible so as to not contribute to its worsening state. Glacier National Park uses an adaptive resource management approach as a tool to understand and respond to the protected area's changing ecosystem. They also have a sustainability plan, following through with actions such as reducing greenhouse gas emissions per mile traveled by 30% and increasing solid waste diversion through proper recycling.